Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here coming to you live from Claremont, Florida. How's your day going? Are you off to a super fantastic sparkling start? We have been up, we've had breakfast, we've been for a beautiful walk on this gorgeous sunny day, and now we are back and getting ready to continue our day, and we have some challenges for you. So here's our challenge. So what's the challenges today? Okay. So for mindset, we're going to look at journaling. And journaling can take on many different forms. It could be a piece of paper. It could be in a notebook. It could be a composition book. It could be, what was the one I found the other day? A friend of mine does this. It's art journaling. So she does it through pictures and different mediums and stuff and makes journals out of them. There's all sorts of different ways that you can journal. You can get on the computer and you can type into a Word document or type into a program that's on. If you don't like writing. But the thing that I find with writing, though, is that writing can be very beneficial because it helps get what's in here and cluttering up the brain out onto paper. And when you have that connection between the brain and the pen, and writing and actually physically writing it, there's a release from the brain. It helps you process emotions. So journaling is good in a lot of regards because it helps you process emotions. You can talk about things in there that you person about, but it helps you organize your thoughts on a subject. You can use it as a daily journal, as this is what happened. But think of this. If you're writing, I was thinking about this today. I thought, this is something that's hasn't happened and I don't know when. But one thing that I like, being a genealogist, one of the things that I absolutely love is hearing stories from the past. Reading diaries that people have written from the past are absolutely just amazing because it gives you a glimpse as to what life was like when they were alive. Think about it now. Your great grandchildren could be reading your journal from these days during the coronavirus pandemic and wondering, wow, what was it like to live through that? What was it like to live, to be quarantined or having to stay at home, or, they may not know anything about it except for what's in the history books. When the time comes for them to learn back in the history and the world history and stuff. But what really gets me with history is that when I'm looking at genealogy, it's the stories, it's the family stories that get me. Yes, I love history. I love learning about times in history. But what makes it even more special is when I have a family connection to a historic event. So when something like World War II, I've got stories up the wazoo from World War II from grandparents. Well, my grandmother would tell you any story. My grandfather was completely silent about his experiences because it was so traumatic for him. But, but reading back through things that they have written, things that they have left behind, the stories that they told us to kids, it was, it gave us an insight as to what happened during that time, especially in New Zealand. New Zealand, we're a little country down there at the bottom of the world there, and most of the stories that you hear are from the US perspective or the English perspective, but this was somebody in New Zealand. I had a great great grandfather that not only fought in World War II but also World War One. He served in both world wars. So to be able to hear his perspective would be awesome. I don't know of any family writings that are out there about his experiences, but when I find them, trust me, it's going to be awesome. We were at my mother-in-law's place before I came on this journey, and we found this trunk, and there's this trunk sitting on its end in the corner of the office. And for some reason, I always thought that this trunk was something that had Brad's stuff in it, and so it was too heavy for me to lift out, so we waited till the boys got there. They lifted it out for us. We had to break the lock on it because it was locked. Find the key for it. We broke the lock on it. We opened it. It was, oh my gosh, it was in there with family photographs that had never been seen before. None of us had seen them before. They were and then there was this binder there, and in the binder it had the yellow album, and then it had all the photographs numbered in the album, and you go to the sheet and it will tell you who was in them, but somebody had also written under who was in those pictures. And this is going back there was just generations of photographs there, from not just the direct lines but also across for siblings and aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles and all of this sort of thing. And then there was a letter in there, and I totally forgot to take a picture of it before I left, but in this binder there was also letters in there as well that had been written about that time in history. And oh my gosh, I wish that I had like a couple of weeks just with this trunk going through the photographs. I managed to, with my phone, I have a scanner program on my phone, and I managed to scan through, I think it was 2 of the albums that had the names of the photographs. So I can now go back to those photographs and I can figure out, okay, who's this person? Okay, they're not showing up in the tree. Where do they fit in? So now I can take that person's name and, oh, this is a family photograph. This is who's in this family photograph. Okay, well, I've got that person and that person, but I don't have this person. But through journaling, we can learn these stories of what it was like to live back in history. So just think of your grand chum being able to turn around and learn directly from your words, what was it like to live through this pandemic of 2020. You could be looking at this 30, 40, 50 years down the road, and they're looking at that you wrote about your experiences during that time. How much more meaningful learning about the history of this time for them is going to be, because now they have a personal connection to it. They are reading somebody's personal stories, and that's what I love. I love family history, and especially connecting them to time periods. All the different things that people go through and stuff. But to be able to hear from people's own words, especially if they're family members, makes it so much more meaningful. So grab a journal. I don't care if it's online. I don't care if you have to type it. I don't care if it's a piece of paper that you have to staple together afterwards. Just find something and start writing about your experiences on the here and the now. What is it like? What was it like when the coronavirus was first hit the news? What were your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts now that we're in the middle of this pandemic? We may or may not be at the top of the curve yet. I don't know. I don't watch the news. I've got other things that I can worry about. But I do stay in place. What's it like being locked up in the house for that time? What did you do to relieve your boredom? What did you do? Were you still exercising? Were you able to go out? If you could go outside, what could you go outside and do? So this way your generation's legacy will be able to, your descendants, that's your ancestors, but your descendants will be able to read about your personal journey through this time in history, and that will make it so much more meaningful, because this is my great-great-grandmother's own words. This is what it was like for her living through the pandemic, or my great-grandmother's words. That it gives them a point of reference. Yes, you can learn a lot about history, and I love it when I was over in Europe and we were learning all this European history and everything else. But I didn't have a personal connection to any of those areas. And yes, I did enjoy it. I had a blast. But imagine if you go visit an area where you had a personal connection. It's like when we're in New Zealand and we go tripping around New Zealand, we go past houses that there's a place in Dunedin where my grandfather grew up. I have a connection with that house. And I have a story about the time that we drove past that when my parents were, the family, my mum, dad, my 2 brothers, and I were in the van, and we drove down the little dead-end street and turned around and came back past the house. This is the house that Papa grew up in, and we're like, oh, this is really cool. Well, now I have that personal connection to that area and that time in history because my grandfather grew up there. And then we drove around the corner, and there was this man that was peering. All you could see was from here up, and he was peering over this hedge, and he looked like a character on a British TV comedy. And I made the comment, I said, oh, that looks like Corky from the TV program Sykes. And Corky in the TV program, and Sykes is about a brother and sister who live together. It's a comedy from the 70s? Yeah, from the 70s. Great comedy, absolutely loved it. Just slapstick British comedy. And Corky is the policeman, and he's very tall guy, of course, with his hat on and all that, and he's got these little round spectacles and stuff, and that's what this guy looked like peering over the hedge, was this guy Corky from the thing. And so later on, we were up at my grandparents' place, and we were telling him about the trip to Dunedin, and I said to Papa, oh, we went past your house in Dunedin, and we went around the corner, and there was a guy peering over the hedge. He looked like Corky from the TV program Sykes. And my grandfather and my papa started laughing, and he says, if you had gone up and told him who you were, he would have taken you inside and given you a cup of tea. And he said, oh, and by his last name is Sykes. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So it was really cool because we had that connection with the house. Now I had a connection with a British TV series by one of his neighbours. So it was kind of cool learning that sort of stuff and going past places where my grandparents or great grandparents and everything else were raised, and hearing their stories about from those times as well, from when they were growing up as kids and stuff. So get your journals out. I don't care if it's a book, I don't care if it's a piece of paper, if it's a program on the internet or a Word document, whatever, but start journaling your stories about today. What is it like living in this time? What is it like being cramped up in the house? Are you able to go outside? If you go outside, what can you go outside for? If you're being quarantined because you were exposed to somebody who was positive, what was that like? What was it like waiting for those test results to come in? If you were somebody who has survived coronavirus, what was it like going through it? Jot down your feelings and your stories and everything else about it so that your future generations can learn through your personal experiences what it was like. So that's your mindset for today, because when you journal, it also helps clear the mind as too, and it helps you process emotions as well. So journaling is very good for the mindset. Business. Today is our last day on processes. So how are your processes coming along for your business? Do you have new processes in place? Are you working on new processes? Do you have changes that you want to make in your what you want the changes to look like when they're done, and now you're writing out the processes for those? Remember, the processes will help everything run smoothly. And a lot of times when you get processes in place, doing stuff that you don't actually need to be doing, you can outsource it to somebody else. And speaking of outsourcing it to somebody else, coming up on April 25th, there is a 4-hour free online workshop for 4 hours on follow-up. It's on the follow-up process, how to follow up with your clients, how to follow up with your customers, how through that process you can turn your clients and customers into raving fans. So that's coming up on April 25th. I will put the link in the comments, but the link is followupriches.com. Followupriches.com. Go there. You can register. They will then send you the Zoom link for it. It is going to be a phenomenal workshop. I mean, the people that they've got Casey Eberhardt, who's a very dear friend and mentor of mine. If you've met him before, he's one of the presenters, and the other one is Bajal Palmer, and his mind. I mean, I've sat with him and heard him talking about follow-up processes and doing processing in your business and stuff, and how to get the best out of the process, out of the follow-up process. His mind is just incredible. I mean, he is just an amazing businessman to listen to. I haven't had a lot of one-on-one time with him, but seeing him present was just awesome. And just to see his flow of ideas and everything else. So if you want a good follow-up process to put in place, tune in on April 25th, and it starts at 9 a.m. Pacific, and it goes to 1 p.m. Pacific. So go to followupriches.com, and I will put the link in the description at the end of this. Register there, and it's a 4-hour online course, and it's free, and it takes you through the whole follow-up process from start to finish, and how you can customize it specifically for your business and everything else. It is a hands-on workshop, and by the end of the workshop, you will have your follow-up playbook in hand, ready to go, or just with a couple of tweaks and it'll be ready to go. So that's followupriches.com, and that's for your follow-up process with your clients and customers. So go register. It's just going to cost you 4 hours of your time, and it'll be so worth the time investment that you put into that to help you with your follow-up process. So this is the last day on processes, so go sign up, followupriches.com. Fun activity today. For your fun activity today, we are talking obstacle courses. If you got kids and you've got a backyard, go out there and get them to create an obstacle course that they can run around, they can climb on, jump on, go under. See what they can come up with an obstacle course, or create one for them. If you're inside the house, and painters, if you've got painter's tape, it works brilliantly for the carpet if you want them to keep them within certain lines and stuff like that, like give them a trail that they have to follow using painter's tape on the floor. In the house, what will you allow them to climb over, under, and through as far as furniture goes to get them to go around the house and around this obstacle course? So use your imagination as to what you can climb up, over, through, jump over, run through it, crawl underneath it, Maybe you've got in one area, instead of walking, you have to hop on one foot. In another area, it could be jumping on 2 feet. It could be crawling on your hands and knees. It could be doing a spider crawl, a crab crawl. You've got different methods that you can actually move around through obstacle courses as well. So come up with something fun and adventurous, and get the kids help on designing it, and then get them to run through it once, and then do it timed. Get them to time it, see who's the fastest through the course. If you're a couple, I'm sure you can come up with something for the obstacle courses. If you're by yourself, you can definitely come up with an obstacle course that you can do yourself. It could be moving around a room without touching the floor. It could be you've got to, you move the furniture around, and you've got to walk through. You've got somebody who, there's another one. Or you could, if you can't go outside, you want to work on trust, you could move the furniture around, blindfold one of you blindfolded, and you have to lead the blindfolded person through the obstacle course, and then you reverse. So if you were the blindfolded person, you become the sighted person while the other person's blindfolded, and lead them through the obstacle course. There's a good one for you, but make it so that they can't injure themselves. They might end up with a stubbed toe, but please don't make it where they've got to climb over something and could fall off and hurt themselves. Use common sense. Okay, so those are your 3 challenges for today. Your mindset is on journaling and telling your story about during your time through the coronavirus pandemic, so your future generations have your first-hand account. Business is all about processes. Go to followupriches.com, and I will put that link in the thing to sign up for the follow-up process for the Follow Up Riches workshop that's going to take place on April 25th. And like I said, it will help you get your follow-up process dialed in, tuned in, and ready to roll. By the end of that workshop, it's a thing. And the fun course for today, and the fun activity for today, is obstacle courses. Create your own obstacle course and go through it. Time yourself through it. See how quickly you can get through timer, so you get some idea of how it's laid out, and off you go. Time yourself and off you go. Or create it for the kids and have the kids have a competition to see who can get through it the quickest without being the least hurt. So have fun today. Have a super fantastic sparkling day, and we will catch you guys later tonight. Hei konera.